Austin Mackenzie and the Hat Man.
Rob Alisea and the Hat Man.
Sergio La Dolce, Look Further.
Michael Amara, I just shot for Iggy.
I'm Glenn Covell. I'm the director and editor of Through the Trees.
Awesome. Yes. What was one of your favorite moments on the set of this film?
One of
Is
my
the question.
favorite moments?
Yes.
Oof.
Or least favorite, if that comes to mind.
I mean, I have a better story for that one.
Okay, go for it.
I guess the most stressful part of that shoot was there's the one shot of kind of looking out over the vista of trees and mountains, and we had to switch locations kind of late in the process, and so none of us had actually been to that spot. Just looked at pictures, and so we had to hike for about an hour through the woods to get there. Carrying all the equipment, and it was late in the day, and like people had to leave. I mean, that was the last thing we shot, just that one setup, and my AD kept telling me we're out of time. We gotta shoot something else and like just get something while we're here. And I was like, no, we have to keep going. And I started to kind of feel like the crazy director leading people out into the wilderness. And so I had to run ahead of everyone to make sure it was even there, and eventually I sort of burst out onto that overlook area, and it was great. It was perfect, and then I kind of ran back to everyone. I was like, we found it, we can do it. And it's in the movie, so it all worked out. But I was very worried for a while there that I was just going to have to, make do with nothing and also be a jerk. So, but that didn't happen. It was all good.
All successful.
So. It was. I guess that was also my favorite part, was when we actually got it done.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. I guess on that set, like the best part was working with, like, I would never say this before, but working with an animal, working with that cat. Its name is Iggy. And that was actually a movie that Ellie wanted to write and shoot for her real cat Iggy as it's aging. And it just kind of got bigger and bigger, and Iggy was just a dream. Animals usually don't cooperate, but he was hanging out, he was chill. When we needed him to jump up on the bed, he did. It was great.
Is he trained or just nice?
Nope, just a chill cat.
Lick his butt.
Yeah, that shot was fun.
Natural actor.
Yeah, that was totally, we were, just tweaking some lights on that shot, and I look up and I see it licking its butt, and I think Whitney was the first day, he was like so we just rolled and got that shot. Yeah.
Sergio.
This is favorites or least favorites?
Yeah, moment on set.
There's so many. Just because when you're shooting no budget, everything is guerrilla. So if you're on the subway at 2 a.m., you're like, no one's going to be here. Everyone's there. But the one I'm thinking of that's coming to mind is that opening shot where Shane is walking and talking to his girlfriend, walking down the street. We're like, okay, we're going to shoot this midnight. No one's going to be out. No one's going to be out. 12:30, some guy decided, this is Monday night, by the way, it wasn't even like on the weekend. Monday night, 12:30, now is a good time to wash my car. And right directly in our path. And I think he just wanted to get away from his wife or something, because his wife came out at like 1 and then grabbed the bucket and took it back in. So it was a whole thing we had to wait for him. So I honestly don't know if that's my least favorite or favorite, because it was so ridiculous.
Seems to be a fun line.
It was both, because we couldn't, like, is this happening right now? Like, we kept looking at each other like, is this in the middle of our, yeah.
I love it.
So I think my personal favorite memory was actually, it's like a preset moment. So I don't drive. I'm from Astoria, born and raised, never got my license. And I remember my first AD had arrived to my house, and think Massimo, I think you had called me and you said, hey, can you possibly pick up Talia, who was one of our production assistants? And so I go to Dan, I say, hey Dan, do you have room in your car that we can maybe pick up Talia? He goes, what car? And I was like, yeah, the car that you're driving us to set. He goes, dude, I don't own a car. So just on day one, trying to figure out how to get to set. And then I'd say the moment that I think I'm the proudest of was, you know, I wanted to do a lot of experimental things in this film, like just a lot of more technical camera movement. So like that pull-out dolly shot while we were also rotating the camera 360, that was done practical, that wasn't in post.
Oh, wow.
And then Katie, who is our actress who played our lovely Amy in the film, you know, her timing too, like just nailing that.
Yeah.
And I think we did in like 2-3 takes, and so that was like something that I was like personally like, yes, I'm so happy. Yeah.
I'll keep it short, not to double down on the Hat Man. But for me, I think one moment that sort of stood out was right on the first night when we started shooting all the night stuff. We had this great idea. So I was the cinematographer, so we had this big idea visually to like fill the whole house with haze and have, you know, everything very atmospheric, and then heat up the hazing machine, and this is going to be, you know, 12 hours of shooting with haze, and turn it on and the fire alarm starts going off within 2 minutes of it being on. Poor Jennifer, the
homeowners right here, those are the real
runs
heroes
out
of the
the fire brigade.
film.
Pretty sure she's on a first name basis with the fire brigade now. But yeah, so a testament to everybody that worked there. We were able to pretty quickly have some solutions and work around it. So it was kind of like a little speed bump, but it ended up working out for the best. So.
And it makes a good story.
And it makes it good
The
story.
fire department said it was the most exciting thing to happen all month for them. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I remember you asking for locations. And
Yeah.
Yes, so kudos.
They were amazing. I've never met such nice people for a location. Seriously, like incredible. And that house is like amazing.
What's the worst piece of filmmaking advice you've ever received?
Oh man. Oh God, so much.
It's
How much time do you have?
it's easy. Filmmaking's easy.
Yes.
Somebody said, "Oh, you'll be fine."
Oh man, the worst piece of advice. You know what? It's kind of I'll go opposite than you. The people saying it's hard, right? Because I think sometimes you get that so in your mind that it's so hard, and that can paralyze you at
Yes.
times, right? From actually like taking a risk and actually shooting. I think, look, we all know there's going to be challenges. It's either casting challenges, writing challenges, challenges on set, raising money. But if you find good people, it always works out. I find that, like, as long as everyone's got good spirit and everyone is really there and just kind and just wanting to just make something, it always turns out great. So I say it's challenging, but it's not hard if you have the right people.
I like that.
Worst piece of advice.
Shoot in your own apartment.
You know what? I'm kind of drawing a blank. I don't think I've
Best
ever-
piece of advice?
Just do it. Yeah, I think shoot it on your iPhone, even if it's not the
Perfect.
best thing. Like the first version of this we shot was just like, hey, let's go to a storage facility and shoot something, and we just shot it on our iPhone.
Get started.
Yeah.
Just get started in some capacity. I think it's because film is on the spectrum of visual arts. It is so collaborative, which is a positive and also a negative, because you need at least one other person, unless you have like telekinesis and can like float the camera while you're in front of it or something. But yeah.
Robot cameras? They're
Robot
on your
camera, I mean, that's
list.
probably going to happen at some point. So
Interesting.
AI will do everything.
Say the worst advice. I did overhear this once. Oh, you don't really need an art director. You can do it yourself.
I think the worst advice is just fix it in post.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
Universally, that's the worst advice.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
What kind of films or TV shows inspired kind of your thoughts for making this piece, if any?
I don't feel like I have a good answer for for this. Like, there's definitely a lot of things that influenced me, but I don't think I really.
Pinpointed it.
There weren't a lot of things that I was like drawing direct kind of reference from or like showing to people. But like, yeah, just anything set in a forest, I feel like I kind of looked at and just kind of like, where, how did they shoot this? Like, especially the night stuff, like how to light that.
Yeah.
I looked at a lot of different things, but even right now, I can't even. I think The Wolfman was one that I looked at, the remake from 2010, and there is a shot that I've seen in a bunch of different things that I stole. Actually, there were a couple things I stole, but one is a thing from A Quiet Place, and the other is from the movie The Ritual, which is very good and is good for scary woods stuff. So
Well, there's a great film meme. It's like, you know, indie filmmakers try to get night shots, and you have like your high beams and
Yeah.
your LEDs, and then it's like professionals, and they have that giant like crane
yeah,
overhead,
exactly.
you know. So
We had 2 lights.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we made it work.
very cool.
At the very beginning, the directors just said, "Watch this movie called House." It's
It's great.
yeah, old horror film, Japanese director, and it was crazy. It was nuts. That's all I can say about it is, you know, there's a haunted house, there's a cat,
There's a cat.
there's decapitations. You know, it's great. It's great horror.
Inspirations is 1988 film The Vanishing.
Sure.
So, so I've written a lot of horror, but this was my first time directing horror. So I wanted it to be something that was a love letter to all the directors and filmmakers that really inspired me. So, a big inspiration, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the first movie I remember watching as a kid, which, yeah, I guess that's why I fell in love with horror. And then just my own personal experiences. So both myself and my writing partner suffer from sleep paralysis, and anybody who knows people who suffer from it tend to see shadow figures in their bedrooms. So, you know, she and I at this point had written, I think, 1 or 2 projects together at this point, and then we both started talking about our sleep paralysis, and I was like, holy crap, you have that too? And then we started talking about our experiences. And then when we started Googling it, like if you Google the Hat Man, there's like hundreds of Google searches of people since like recorded history from like every walk of life that have seen like a wide brimmed shadow figure in their room when they suffer from sleep paralysis. So we were just like, yeah, we want to write something about that. So in a weird way, I guess it's weird to say that a horror movie is your most personal story ever, but it's fun.
It works.
Yeah, basically the same. Maybe just like in terms of visually, The Prodigy was one that we sort of
Yeah.
drew on for the therapist stuff, and then, you know, more modern films like The Conjuring.
Yeah. Little Halloween, little Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
too.
That's it.
Yeah.
Do you have, as a horror filmmaker, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Go for it.
Do you have any theory why the audience is hooked on horror?
Why are audiences hooked on horror? Your thoughts?
I think the reason why we love horror is like, I guess it holds up our own like mirror to our own humanity and our own fears. And I think like it's kind of like going on a roller coaster, right? It's like you go on it and it's like kind of fun to be terrified, but then you kind of know after like a couple of minutes it's over. I think that's kind of why we love horror. Yeah, and I think it's fun to be scared and scare people.
Yeah, it's that there's something about anything that's dread-inducing where you're still in a safe space, where you're not actually experiencing it, but then that suspense and then the dread and then that relief is super important. Is something that we all connect with and want to experience.
So horror's always kind of been this widespread response to large traumas through society. And historically you see a lot of, like that movie House, it has a lot of themes post World War II, and this Japanese creator trying to grapple with stuff that his country saw, and you could start to see the rumblings right now of people coming out of COVID and lockdown and having a whole new view on what life is and what's actually scary to them. So I think we're going to have some really interesting stuff coming out.
Yeah, those are really good answers. I feel kind of put on the spot now. Like, I don't know what else to say. I think horror is pretty, I think it is universal. Like, I think everyone can relate to the experience of feeling fear or feeling unease or feeling anxiety or any of those things. And it's like, it can, I don't know, it's like it can encompass so much. I think just as a filmmaker, I think it provides a lot of opportunities to do fun filmmaker-y things. Like, I think you can take a very sort of straightforward, simple story and really play around a lot with lighting and editing and things like that, which you might just be a bit weirder if you're doing a straight drama or comedy or something. So I think it's also just like, it's very enticing, I think, as a filmmaker too.
But for a while, the kids I work with in filmmaking, like 9 to 11-year-olds, all wanted to make horrors, and I was like, so I was getting all philosophical. I was like, is it because the world is horrible? But now you can control the horror in this realm. They were like, no, it's the fake blood. It's really cool. And I was like, all right, I tried. So to what you're saying, like, it's fun. Like, part of it is fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody have questions that I didn't ask that they'd like to know the answer to? David?
Well, I just want to say all those films were really terrific, honestly. And I do have a question specifically for the Hat Man. And I personally love when I watch films and I see aspect ratios being played with. So I just want to know, coming from you guys, what was the motivation and what was the thought process of when you guys squeeze it into 4x3? Like what were you trying to get across?
Yeah, go for it. Take it.
So that was something that when we were like early on in the stages of talking about how we were going to sort of do some visual elements that were a bit more sophisticated, that was something that we discussed as a possibility, and something that I really wanted to steer away from was just doing it for the cliche of having a different aspect ratio. We kind of wanted to have some sort of meaning behind it. We found that in that shift when she's going into the sort of trance-like state to go into the deeper, that was a good place to be able to sort of use that there. And then obviously you go from 2, 3, 4 to 4x3, and you're playing with the idea of like old TVs and memories and childhood memories. So yeah, that was kind of something that we wanted to do, but wanted to make sure we did it not just for the sake of doing it, and it had a bit of meaning behind it.
Another Batman question. So the opening shot is the upside down house, and then it is around. Can you talk about conceiving that shot and also how you did it? Like, was it practical? What did you do?
Yeah, it was practical again. So like any 360 stuff in there was all done practical. What was? Do you remember the name of that? What we used?
Yeah, so we used a lambda head, and we basically just shot it practically. Did it like 20 times. Just kept on spinning it, and ended up finding the right one that sort of fit the profile of how we wanted to do it.
And the inspiration behind like starting upside down was like kind of 2 reasons. It was like, one, when I first started thinking about it and discussing with Massimo, it felt like, all right, something feels off here, right? Like it's a beautiful home, but you feel like there's this feeling of dread because like I don't know, I've never seen a movie start upside down. And then the other part about it was, just kind of playing with this idea of like the story's very cyclical in the end, like how it starts, it kind of begins, how it ends. So kind of just playing with that. And this guy right here pulled it off amazingly.
To look deeper, I was curious about the design of the monster at the end. He was so grotesque, and so I was wondering what the inspiration for the design.
So there's a whole hierarchy that I was thinking about for the backstory of this of gods, And so that guy is 1,100 years old.
It was really, kind of reminded me of like that the end of when they kind of come across that huge spider. It was amazing, and you did the visual effects for that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I did that too.
Amazing.
Go ahead.
Robbie Moss. I want to know what the audio or what was being said on the phone.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the guys who composed the music, Dan and Adam, they're, by the way, not only like talent, they're the sweetest, nicest people. They showed up to set. They drove 2 hours just to be like, hey, we just want to like feel the space. I've been shooting movies for 20 years. I've never had a composer show up during principal photography ever. It was amazing. I think it's like Rob has nice hair, Massimo's really talented. It's just like really funny things, and then it just said backwards. Yeah, it's like, well, I think they just and then Adam was like, my wife, it rocks, and yeah, that's all it was. It's kind of anticlimactic, I guess.
No, that's fair. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys, for your work, for submitting,
Nina.
for the panel. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.